Hello, and welcome to another episode of Homeschool Moms Unfiltered. I'm your host, Amanda, and my amazing co-host is...
Hello, I'm Megan.
Hey. So we are the moms, and we're generally unfiltered, but that does not mean that this podcast or any of our spaces are just for moms. We are your source for secular, progressive homeschool advice and support. We aren't talking Instagram reels where everything is perfect and tidy and neatly laid out while they gently smile as they proceed to calmly tell you about the 12 curriculum blocks they have scheduled for the day. We are talking real life and real homeschooling because between us, we've been homeschooling for a lot of years. We won't get into exactly how many because that's just not necessary. And we've never actually met one of those people in real life. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that they only live on TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a handful of them exist, but to your point, I've homeschooled in 4 states and 2 countries, and I've never come across one. Like, I've done a pretty good cross-section study here, but so I'm pretty sure they exist, but I'm also super sure that they're the minority rather than the majority. And good for them. Hey, good for them. If that's your jam and that's working for you and your kids are happy and thriving, rock on. Okay? Have the best time ever. But the majority of us don't have enough hours in the day. Oh, I'm feeling that right now. Or enough hands to juggle all the plates that we have in the air at any given point in time. So if you feel the same way, you're in good company because that's what we do here. That's our lifestyle. And our advice that we give is focused around that reality. Sometimes we don't even have advice, but we can say, yeah, we feel that way too. And we see you trying your best and good job. We recently did an episode about the invisible labor of homeschooling, and the advice was pretty slim at the end of the episode, slimmer than usual, because in some ways it just kind of is what it is. Homeschooling is a lot of work and we've taken on a lot, but that doesn't make it any easier. And sometimes it really helps to hear somebody else go, no, I'm really tired too. And I don't have enough hours in the day. And I wish I had more time for myself and all of that so that you know that you're not alone.
It's so true. I hear that a lot of times in the coaching sessions we do, right? Where I'm like, okay, so I don't think that this next statement is going to make you feel much better because it doesn't actually provide any suggestions or help. And afterwards, they're almost always like, but actually it does make me feel better because it's not just me. Like it's normal. Like it's okay, like, yeah, absolutely. But you know what else helps to hear out loud these days? If you feel like you're living in an episode of The Twilight Zone where an orange clown and his evil flying monkeys have taken over and you're trying so hard to fight back, but it feels like all you can do is make your phone calls to elected officials who don't actually give a shit about what you want or what you have to say. Or maybe you're like making your protest signs and showing up, occasionally engaging in like a frustrating, probably useless online debate. Join the club. We're there with you.
Oh, yeah. This is not a blessed be the fruit homeschool kind of space. Okay. This is not a he's only going after the criminals space. This is not a we are pro-life, but fully support blowing an entire country off the face of the earth because, I mean, he really has no choice kind of space.
If I have to hear one more person be like, I mean, he really doesn't like war, but he just had no choice. Like, the fuck he didn't. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, take it from 2 people who've been homeschooling for a really long time. We know how hard it is to find a space like this in the homeschool community. So if your family doesn't look like a man, a woman, and 2.5 kids, you are safe here. If your family is neurosparkly as hell, join the club. That's the 2 of us to a T, right? 100%. We've got you. If you feel like the goings on of your lady parts, or hey, if you don't have lady parts, but get this, you respect the people around you who do have lady parts. Wild concept, we know, right? But if you're thinking, okay, whoever's uterus, right? It's their own damn business. Join our club. That's us. That's what we're all about here.
Right? Lindsey Graham is literally the last person I need up in my uterus in any way, shape, or form. I like, yeah, just, yeah. Most of these crusty old white men couldn't find a uterus on a labeled anatomy diagram if they had to. But sure, they're making it all their business. I don't, I can't. All right. Anyway, okay. So today we have what we'll refer to as a peace of mind topic for you. So, yes, this is our fourth season. And no, I don't think we've ever used that term before for an actual podcast or even really just in talking. But that's okay. That's what we're going to do today. Have you ever been just innocently scrolling on your phone and the day is going okay? And then you see, oh, one of those pictures, right? Like little Susie is the star reader of the month, and Susie's all smiles and she's holding her certificate, and the family's so proud. And then your okay day does an instant 180 degrees. And look, if you're like Megan, that sort of instant panic is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from nervous tummy distress.
Yeah.
Not a good day.
Yeah, it doesn't, that skip and jump are pretty small. It does not take much.
So not really a hop, just a skip and a jump.
Yeah. Very short. I was like that even as a kid, though, before report cards came out at school, like any of that stuff. Oh my gosh, for days I would be sick. Days. It was awful. But we're going to get into that today. Okay, so your day went from okay, things are going along smoothly, to now filled with questions racing through your mind, like, are my kids missing out? Am I doing enough? Am I depriving my kids by homeschooling them? Would they have more friends if they went to school? Next thing you know, you're looking at your 6-year-old and you're on the verge of crying, thinking they'll never go to prom. So today, we're going to be digging into all of that. And we are, because if you've had this experience, you're not alone. We know you're not alone. We've had these conversations. So we'll start out by saying, if you're confidently homeschooling and don't have these feelings anymore, do the new people a favor. Drop a comment wherever you're listening, except for Apple Podcasts, which doesn't allow comments. Boo, Apple Podcasts. But anywhere else, drop a comment. We'll share them on our social media channels. It'll be so helpful to new people who are still struggling to not just hear it from the two of us, but to hear it from other people too, because there are plenty of newer people. And if you're not new and you're still struggling, that's okay too. You can struggle as long as you want to. It's like grief. There's no expiration date. You can struggle all you want, but hopefully we can help you with that.
Yeah, no, that's it. I definitely like it ebbs and flows for me. I know your kiddos are older and your youngest would really not be interested in most of these kinds of experiences and opportunities. So in some ways, I think it might be a little easier in your family to just completely check out of that system. I have a kiddo who likes recognition. He comes by it honestly. His dad is very much that personality. That's his love language, if you believe in those things. And so, yeah, I mean, we've been doing it a long time and we don't care too much about these things, but there are still things that come across my feed or that pop up or things that I'm like, okay, so his best friend experienced this, his closest cousin friend experienced this. He's not going to experience it. How can I give him a similar type of life experience? Like, it doesn't just have to go away because you've been homeschooling for a long time, but it also doesn't have to completely dictate all of your choices. And that's what we're going to talk about today for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But before we jump into this with both feet, let's start off with our usual recap. It's part of our Keeping It Real vibe. We like to give you a total picture of what our lives as homeschool parents look like. Some weeks are great. Other weeks, as I explained in a recent episode, I find myself paralyzed on the sidewalk and crying as I head home with a grocery bag that's too heavy. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So, real life. But yeah, what's new with you, Amanda?
Well, if you're listening to this episode the day that it drops, I'm honestly probably still on a red-eye flight back home from our anniversary trip, which means you most definitely got better sleep than I did last night. I dream of someday being wealthy enough that I can book business class seats for all overnight flights. Oh, wouldn't that be there are not a lot of luxuries in my life. And I'm like, oh, I would like a business class seat for overnight flights. I'm not going to lie. Recently, my husband was like, wouldn't it be amazing to be able to just rent a jet whenever you want? And I was like, I don't need a jet. I just want a business class seat.
Yeah.
Although with the way the way business class seats have been priced lately, getting a business
Uh,
class seat for all three of us was almost the price of renting a jet, it feels like, but
I'm
that's
going
a
to
whole other
put
story.
myself in a suitcase soon with the way ticket prices have been as a result of this non-war war in Iran. I'm like, oh my God, right? I mean, first world problems, people are dying, but still it's affecting so much stuff. I was having a conversation with somebody here the other day. They were talking about how the businesses are going to suffer here in the summer if as many tourists don't come, small businesses that depend on this peak season. So yeah, sorry. Anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, yeah, it's true. I live in a very touristy city,
Hmm.
and there are all kinds of issues that are already happening and coming up because of a drop in tourism. It's,
Hmm.
yeah, but I mean, the people who make all the big bucks are doing all of their insider trading and still getting rich. So, yay them.
Exactly.
Um,
At least somebody's winning. There was winning promised. It just wasn't very specific who would be winning.
yeah,
This was never going to
exactly.
be us. And we knew that, yet somehow half the country did not.
Yeah,
Roughly
they didn't. Yeah.
51% of the country did not, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, there is that. And I mean, kind of going right along with that, we will not be buying business class seats anytime soon because we're busy worrying about whether or not my husband is about to get laid off during this current reorg at his company. So, yeah, business class seats definitely not happening anytime soon in the budget. And yes, for anyone who's listening and is like, doesn't she do points hacking? She always talks about how she does points hacking. I totally realized that we could book business class seats using points, but we do prioritize using points on hotel accommodations. And then we book our airfare deals and those like mistake fares where it's like, book this in the next 4 hours because they're going to
Hmm.
realize. And yeah. And so that's how we're able to travel as much as we do. We get cheap airfares when they happen. There's not a lot of them. I just saw you can get to Vegas for like $50 round trip right now because Vegas is like, no one is coming. Everyone come. But
Bring the people.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we jump on those kinds of things and then use points for hotels mostly. But anyway, I digress. So besides the stress of the current economy and the potential layoff looming over us, like in general, life is okay for us. We all made the conscious decision to mostly take, it ended up being kind of like a 9-day vacation with the weekends bookending it. And so we took it off. We didn't use our computers for the most part. So no curriculum. We didn't bring books with us on this vacation. He's got some Michael Clay Thompson books that he needs to be reading, but we didn't bring those. Like you can read them in the car on our next road trip, wherever we're going, whatever we're doing. But yeah, so like no online classes, no textbooks, no curriculum with us, and just some tours and learning about local culture and supporting small local businesses, eating and drinking really well, got a suntan, did a decent job of relaxing. Hopefully, it's enough to carry me through this coming week, which is going to be really pretty brutal. We have to do our iReady assessment stuff. As soon as we get home, we've just got 2 days at home, and then we're turning around and flying out to visit family. And so it's going to be really full on. But yeah, homeschooling stuff is going fine. Anytime we don't do work, it feels really nice.
Homeschooling's going great.
We're
Yeah.
eating and drinking and soaking in the local culture. Homeschool's fantastic. How about you, Megan? What do you guys have going on?
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Well, I just have to say, as it relates to business class seats, my brother-in-law is also a big points flyer, and we do points flying as well. And it's so funny because he will always upgrade. He'll be like, it was only like 20,000 points extra. And I'm like, 20,000 points could go to another ticket. I'm like, you could put me in a suitcase and put me for the cheapest amount if it means I can stretch my points further and we can go another place because I can do a thing. So he's always cracking up. He's like, no, I need comfort. I'm like, okay, well, I'll be on an extra flight. So I'll be spreading those points out a little bit further, which helps nicely.
Yep.
Anyway, all right. So by the time you're listening to this, we should be back from Liam's first AP test. We have to go to Barcelona for that. I got an email today from the coordinator. So I've talked about it before, but quick recap. There's an international school here in Lisbon that does AP tests, but they don't give all the tests every year because it's a smaller international school. They have a rotation. And so if you've lived here for a while, you could kind of map your high school journey around what years they're offering what AP tests locally. We did not do that because he was already on a math trajectory from before we moved here and statistics was happening. So, okay, fine. But they were so nice. They gave me a whole list of schools that I could call and try and blah, blah, blah. So there were a number of them. Barcelona was the closest one. And the people were super nice. They were super easy about accommodations. Thankfully, I booked our tickets before all of this happened because it's like $25 to fly to Barcelona before the Strait of Hormuz situation. So thankfully that was done. We're just going to go in. He'll take his test. We'll come home. He's not going to want to hang out and sightsee and all kinds of, he's like, I would like to be home. He's a homebody. So he'll be thrilled to get home. So hopefully that all went well. Fingers crossed by the time we get back. Yeah. Things are heating up in Portugal. Waffles has her summer due by now. It was getting too hot for her. So off she went to the groomer, and I busted out her cooling mat for her to put in her bed so that when she lays there, I've ordered an air conditioner for downstairs. Last year we only had one upstairs. And I was like, by next year, we will definitely be doing this. But last year, I just didn't even have the spoons to understand how to buy an air conditioner for an apartment. Our houses have always had central, so I didn't know. And there's all different kinds, and then there's different ways of venting them. And last year was just too much. So I was like, we'll just sweat until next year. And by next year, so over the winter, I took some time to ask questions and figure things out and whatever. And so it should be here in about a week. So we'll just sweat for another week.
I honestly thought you were going to say that you bought an air conditioner for the dog. I'm glad to hear that you bought it for everyone who's downstairs.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes,
one
it's
of
for
those
the
little
entire,
ones. Yeah,
the
like
entire
the little
first floor.
like I'm envisioning one of those little desk ones that sits right in front of her bed so that she's like, I'm good, thank you. And you guys are all sitting around like, it's so hot.
Be like, but the dog is fine. So it's all good, right? Yeah. So we'll all be cool and comfortable soon enough, which is good. She hasn't given up sleeping in the bed yet. So it's not that hot. Because last summer when it was a peak of hot and we didn't have an air conditioner, finally she was like, I'm out. This is just too hot. So she's still in beds. Okay. So Astrid is working on her internship still, and she has a capstone project that needs to be done at the end of this internship, which is a specific garment. And the whole focus of this internship is upcycling to avoid waste within fashion. And so it's been really cool. They went to a lab that did algae that can be used in clothing as a sustainable source. They did cyanotype printing. They've done denim upcycling. They worked with an influencer who's here to do a photo shoot of this whole denim thing that they did. And then after the photo shoot, then those got turned into cushions and got donated. So it's been really cool. And it's just been nice to go with other creatives and find community. It's been good for her. So it's been awesome. And Aiden is underway with his Python course. And yeah, I mean, busy, busy, busy. Life is good, but busy. That's just the story of everything, right?
So busy. So busy.
So, yeah, the kids are going in a million different directions all the time. And for those who have multiples, even just when they just need like one small thing, it's like, okay, it's one small thing, but then you're trying to fit it in around everything else that already exists. And then each of them tends to need a small thing at various points. So then it's triple the small things. So right now it's like finding Astrid a new bathing suit. Okay, great. So it's like errands galore trying to find a bathing suit. And it's just like, you're trying to slot this in. It's like never ending Tetris, but it's good. So anyway.
Yeah. I think too, for us, it was like, okay, so we knew we were taking this anniversary trip and we all did everything we needed beforehand to be able to go and be pretty disconnected. Both my husband and I had a couple of live things that we still needed to log on for, but it's not a big lift to show up and be live for an hour or two here or there. But you take the time, and I'm really good at compartmentalizing, generally speaking, but it does not change the fact that when you are super disconnecting and you're compartmentalizing and you're on vacation, every once in a while, something will happen where you're like, oh God, there's going to be so much I have to catch up on when I go back to the real world. Like, oh no, what have I done? So yeah, what have I done? So busy.
Yeah, it's like, boom, I'm back, right? It's big.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh gosh. All right. Well, today let's talk about this mental and emotional spiral that is so common for people who are trying to decide if they should homeschool, people who are new to homeschool. And like we said before, heck, even veterans who are just having a moment. We all logically know that social media is a highlight reel. And school has one of the most curated highlight reels out there. It's very Instagram friendly in those big moments.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it easy to breathe through that and remember that in the moment. I mean, I have anxiety, and if I'm mid-spiral and you tell me that whatever I'm freaking out about doesn't logically make sense, it doesn't help at all. So not helpful.
Yeah, no, for sure. It can be so, so hard sometimes. First day of school is probably the biggest onslaught. There's pics with the new teachers, holding up their what I want to be when I grow up signs, wearing new school clothes, or those brand spanking new cute little school uniforms that aren't yet faded and stained and worse for the wear. But let's be honest, there's also Spirit Week. Some super fun stuff happens with that. I just saw a thing where the teachers were doing a secret Spirit Week to see how long it took the kids to figure out what they were doing. I mean, that's fun. There's field day. I personally hated field day, but some kids really love it. Homecoming, prom, awards that truly seem never ending. There's school sports and clubs and performances, orchestra and theater and what I mean, there's just so many things.
Okay, you're supposed to be making people feel comfortable about their decision to homeschool, not piling on all the stuff their kids are missing out on. Okay?
Well, I
Chill.
mean, in some ways, you can be like, "Whew, thank God I don't have to try to fit all of those things on my calendar." But the reality is, yes, these are real moments. And yes, kids do love at least parts of school. I think almost all of us who went through the public school system or any sort of brick and mortar school system can look back and find pieces that were like, oh, that was so fun. Whether it was supposed to be fun or not, there are pieces that you remember fondly. And so we're not pretending it's all bad. We're never going to do that. But we can definitely offer some really solid consolation and honestly, maybe a touch of commiseration that should help when these posts start filling up your news feed and you're starting to just feel the feels.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all in for this episode because I see posts often where it's homecoming weekend or something, and people are like, I'm questioning and I'm stressing and I'm sad and I'm this and I'm that. And they're not necessarily even sometimes looking for a solution. They're just sharing how they feel, which is totally valid. And I'm happy to chime in with this, like it isn't always rosy as it seems perspective, because I embody that perspective. I never liked school. I did it because it was required and I was a good kid. And so I did what you asked of me. And then my own kid's school experience was pretty ick from moment one. So the day we walked out of that building, I knew we were never going back, never looking back. So when I see those pictures, you get a couple of responses from me depending on the day. Not out loud responses, because you have your moment. I'm happy for you. But I tend to think, ugh, better you than me, friend. Like, ugh, good for you. Or I think, man, I wish they knew how much better life could be outside of the system that people don't even realize. And so it's actually interesting because for me, my Facebook memories confirm this, because the number of times that I would post during winter break or spring break or summer break, like, I can't believe school's starting again. I don't want to send them back. I'm going to miss them. I love having them home. We've had the best break ever, all of this. And I'm like, yeah, I can't believe I ever sent them back. I can't believe that I ever gave up that time with them, because now I don't have to. And so it's great. But you actually liked school, so your take might be different than mine.
I mean, it's true. The thing for me is I grew up in a solidly working class family in a really small rural town. And I'm talking small, like 3,000 people small. And this was before the internet is what it is today. So I could ask Jeeves something or use Dogpile to look some things up, but there just was not the same access. I used school to try all the things and learn all the things. It was my ticket to the big wide world outside of rural Iowa, to the exposure that I just wasn't able to get any other way. My mom actually talks about how she knew pretty much as soon as I started talking that I was going to grow up and leave rural Iowa as soon as I could and never look back. And it's true. My public school experience helped me achieve things that no one else in my family had achieved before. And I have some super fond memories of just all of those things, all of those experiences I got to have. But also, I went to a school that didn't even offer pre-calculus. APs were absolutely not a thing. It was just a very different, you're talking, 10 to 15% of the kids went to any sort of anything after high school graduation. And then you had other things, like we had a friend come out and they wanted to bring their same-sex girlfriend to homecoming, and my school absolutely did not allow it to happen. Even when we tried to be like, "Oh, this is our other friend's girlfriend and he's bringing her." And they were like, "Yeah, we're not that dumb. We know she's actually so and so's girlfriend." Like, no, and turned away at the door kind of thing. Like,
Ugh.
it just was not happening. So, yeah, nothing in life is all great all of the time. Even if you have good memories, nothing is all great all of the time. The reality is we cannot compare our entire educational philosophy, approach, and history of decision making to someone else's best moments, often captured by cell phone and shared for the world to enjoy and envy.
Yeah. If my kids were here today and they were listening to this conversation, they would just be like, Red Robin fries. That's been their saying for years about how things are never as good as they look in photos or itty bitty video clips of something. So they were all born in South Florida. We did not have Red Robin in South Florida. We moved to North Carolina. There was one. We would see these sick ads on TV or billboards, and the fries looked so good. And listen, I am a simple eater. Do not take me to some 5-star Michelin, whatever. I want good diner food. I want a grilled cheese sandwich. This is my jam. So good French fries for me. I was like, we're there. These fries on the images, they were crispy on the outside. They had beautiful seasoning sprinkled on them. They looked fresh and hot and amazing in every image. So one day we had an afternoon free. I was like, you guys, let's go to Red Robin. So we went and we ordered all of our usual diner style favorites. We got fries and mozzarella sticks and milkshakes, just a bunch of stuff for the table, and figured we'll taste it all. We'll experience Red Robin. We'll try it. It was the most disgusting food ever. And I am a person who likes diner food. I like Denny's. I like this stuff. Okay. Nothing was fresh. Nothing looked like it did on the menu. Nothing was palatable. We never went back. So now our family shorthand for don't believe everything you see online is Red Robin French fries. So that's the situation.
Well, yeah, I mean, it does sometimes take a few times of getting burned to learn that lesson. So it is awesome that your kiddos have already got it figured out. I know plenty of adults who have to be burned too many times, Trump voters, before they realize how they've gone terribly wrong. But yeah, that 5-second clip of your best friend's kid walking across the stage to pick up their honor roll certificate, it is truly just a moment in time. It might not be Red Robin fries because that moment is still great and it's a moment to be proud of for sure. But what you're seeing is not the whole story. That video isn't showing the emotional reality behind that big grin and that super proud moment. It's not including the things like the homework battles that lasted hours or the late nights, way later than any kid should be up working instead of sleeping, kids crying and shutting down or feeling not smart or just being I'm too dumb for this. That happens so often. Or the Sunday night anxiety or the daily stomach aches. I know someone whose kiddo was having almost daily stomach aches and the mom was so sympathetic and empathetic, and the dad is just like, just buck up and go to school. It
Ugh.
doesn't matter that you've got so much anxiety. You're sick every day. Stop making it up. All of this kind of stuff, the burnout at shockingly young ages. This isn't just us dissing traditional school. There's unfortunately endless data and some really sad, shocking documentaries to back this up. We've included it in our online courses, and we have links that you can scan in our book, which PS is totally available for pre-order. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you can also check out the show notes right now for more info to actually look at those things. If you're like, is this just a because they said so? No, it's not. There's actual stuff you can go research for.
Yeah. All of that is so true. Homework used to be the bane of my existence when my kids were in public school. After school, I wanted to be enjoying my time with my kids. I'm like, you already had them for 3/4 of their waking hours today. I want to go to the park. I want to go to the pool. I want to meet up with friends, not sitting here and doing spelling homework. I've talked about it before, but spelling homework in particular drove me nuts. I have a hyperlexic kid who spells like a whiz. Why is he doing this homework every day? He literally never got anything but a perfect score ever on a spelling test. And they would do a pre-test on Monday. So it's not like you can say, oh, it's because he did the homework throughout the week. He got 100 on the pre-test. Why is he doing homework and then retesting on Friday? But that's just part of the academic reality of school. It's a one size fits all model. That teacher has 20 kids in her classroom, and she can't be like, oh, he doesn't need to take spelling tests, or I need to give him an entirely curated list of spelling words that'll really challenge and excite him. She can't do that. She's got 20 kids and she's a human being. And we talked about in previous episodes about how if they start differentiating without an IEP, then some Karen mom is going to show up in the office and be like, how come her kid doesn't have to take spelling tests? So it has to be one size fits all. You've got kids who are super bored out of their minds in school, or on the flip side, completely lost in school. If you have a kid that's at the very center of the bell curve, awesome. If not, you're fucked. And so is your kid, right? And if you have a kid with asynchronous development, meaning they're ahead in language arts, but behind in math and et cetera, sometimes the system calls that a spiky profile. The school system likely has no clue what to do with those kids because the school system needs your child to fit in one nice, neat little labeled box. And so you're either gifted or you're delayed. And they're like, what do you mean you're both? And what do you want us to do about that? And the funny thing is, when I started homeschooling, I famously, I've talked about it before, went to the library, pulled every single homeschooling book off the shelf, read every single one. I was led to believe from these books that asynchronous development was kind of this, it happens sometimes kind of thing, like it was a unique situation. And a decade plus into this and all the work that we've done, and we work with parents and we do coaching sessions, we've done courses, we've written books. I'm like, what the what? Asynchronous development is standard. There is no cookie cutter 4th grade kid, 6th grade kid, whatever. This is not an exception. This is the reality of pretty much every kid. And a one size fits all system doesn't know what to do with that. So that leads to a true lack of differentiation most of the time. Even if you have an amazing teacher with the best of intentions, if you have ever volunteered in a public school classroom, you will 100% see they cannot differentiate. They're pulling their hair out most of the time and collapsing into a ball when the bell rings at the end of the day. And they're not even off then, because then they have to go do carpool line and meetings after school and fill out the classroom dojo thing and everything else. They just can't do it. And then, of course, and this might be worse or better depending on where you live, I'm not really sure. The only public school experience I had was in Florida, and it was very much the case there, which is teaching to the test, because that's where the money is. That's how schools are incentivized. Teachers are incentivized. So yeah, I mean, that's the reality of what is behind that smiling honor roll photo.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So a while back, we did an episode on how to tell if your kids are learning without testing them. And for the record, as the aggressive academic homeschooler between us, I'm doing very little testing or grading, and I'm definitely not issuing report cards. But in that episode, we shared ways to assess learning in a more organic, natural way. Schools don't usually have that luxury. They just can't. There are too many kids. I remember when I was in university, one of my French professors used to take an entire week for every test, but they were never written. Each student would go out into the hallway with the professor and answer all of her questions in French, verbally. And yeah, it took 2 or 3 classes to get through everyone. The rest of us read, we worked on stuff for other classes, and just generally hung out in this really chill environment. But can you imagine that working a classroom full of kids just hanging out super chill and working on their other schoolwork while the teacher's out in the hallway quizzing kids verbally? And 2, can you imagine how that would go over with administrators and parents in a brick and mortar school? It's just not feasible. Plus, at the end of that, the grade for something like that is whatever the teacher says. There's no piece of paper that shows what you got wrong or how the teacher got to that grade. So most teachers and most schools rely heavily on testing, paper testing, quizzes that take up less than half of a class, maybe a bigger test or two that take up the full class. And then they get returned to the students, and let's be real, their parents, by the end of that week. So they can see what the kid has done and what they've learned and how they've progressed. It doesn't mean that it's good or the best or the right way. Then in another episode we previously done, we did the whole, but what about socialization BS? And we also did an episode on the difference between vertical and horizontal socialization. So there's tons in our queue if you go look at previous episodes on all of these topics, if you'd like to dig in deeper and really put some of your angst about socialization and making friends and all of that jazz to rest. But the reality is, school is not the gold standard of testing nor of socialization that so many would lead us to believe. Unfortunately, bullying is far too common in school, both subtle and overt. It is way more common in brick and mortar school than in homeschooling spaces. That isn't to say that it'll never happen in homeschool spaces, but when it does, it's loads easier to remove your kiddo from a class or a vendor or a bad situation when it's a homeschool thing that you choose to attend versus a classroom at school. At that point, you might ask and they might tell you to pound sand. It might come down to like your only option is to remove them from the entire school. It's just a whole huge thing. Then in schools, brick and mortar schools, especially, you've got social pressure, exclusion. I'm sure we can all think of experiences like that from when we were in brick and mortar school. You can read any middle grades book, watch any shows about kids in high school. Exclusion is totally there. You've got comparison culture. Yes, it happens everywhere. There's no avoiding comparison, but it is under pressure in a
Mhm.
brick and mortar school. It's just so intense there. And there's also this belief that more kids equals better friendships, but it's just not necessarily true. A lot of kids have one or two good friends. Heck, a lot of adults have
Mhm.
one or two really good friends and then a lot of friendly acquaintances. Putting your kiddo in a room with 25 or 30 other kids doesn't mean they are suddenly going to recreate an 80s movie-esque pack of BFFs that roam the streets after school and in summer.
Mm-mm. No, it's so true. I felt with that with my own kids where they're seeing these teen packs and it's like, that's not reality. It's not how that goes. But think about it. And we've talked about this in my own home. How many people are you still friends with from elementary school, high school today? Now, that might vary a little bit if you're from a really small town where people don't leave because you're all still in the same place. So, of course, you're still going to be friends. But the average adult isn't still palling around on the regular with the same kids that they were doing the electric slide with at middle school dances.
Do they still do the electric slide at school dances? Or
I
maybe
don't
like the
know.
Macarena? I
I don't
feel
know.
like that was big. Yeah.
Is it all TikTok dances now? I don't know.
Probably.
Right? Don't know. Yeah. Okay. One thing I do know for sure that they do at school, though, is rehearse their death on the regular. Good times. Active shooter drills, constant. Okay. The anxiety that our kids are living with, not our kids because they're home, but kids in society from lockdown drills, the anxiety of this, kids having to have phones on them so that they're reachable in case of a shooter, bulletproof backpacks, no light up shoes, all this kind of stuff that we see. And it's like this is normalized now in the United States. If you're listening from another country, you're like, what the hell? But no, this is very normalized here. And we have kids in the United States now that have survived school shootings in their younger years, middle school, high school, etc. And then again in college, there are multiple of them now who have survived more than one school shooting. At that rate, listen, I'm not the one taking AP statistics tests next week. I'm not a math wizard, but that's some pretty strong mathematical proof there. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yeah. I mean, we could do an entire episode where we just soapbox about how messed up that stuff is. But okay, we have more to talk about. But before we continue, listen, Megan had this really thorough, informative thing written out for me to share about why you want to pre-order our new book. And while none of it is wrong, I'm just going to say this. Please, 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 if you are listening to this podcast, consider taking a minute and go pre-order our book. It's coming out at the end of June 2026. So if you're listening to this after, you can go order it. It won't be a pre-order, but we would still love the order. But if you're new to how these things work, pre-orders play bizarrely huge role in whether or not actual bookstores will stock a book. We promise, we pinky swear that we put a ton of time and effort into creating this book. We're really proud of it. It's literally going to cover everything from like, I think maybe I want to homeschool, all the way through creating a high school transcript and issuing a diploma. And the bottom line is we would just really love your show of support. So please go pre-order if you're listening and you're in a position where you can do that. And I will also say, if you have an awesome secular progressive community that you think would love to host a book signing, whether it's closer to me, Amanda, or closer to where Megan is, please send us a DM. We definitely don't have a huge travel budget, but we'd love to make at least a couple book signings happen this summer and fall. We think it would be really fun to be able to talk to other progressive homeschoolers and help just create some community and some excitement in your home local area community. So reach out to us if you've got an idea for a place.
Yeah, we can even do virtual Q&A sessions or something if you've got a group and together that has additional questions and stuff. So yeah, it'd be fun.
Yeah.
The really fun part is now we're starting to get feedback coming in from our advanced readers who have early copies of the book to share feedback. And so there were 2 quotes that I pulled from emails this morning. And it's really fun waking up to these emails because of my time zone difference. I wake up and it's just this inbox full of happy. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. So one person sent, love the identity first representation. It means a lot to me as an autistic parent raising neurodivergent kids, and it's not something you see centered often enough. Love that. And yes, of course, that's our approach. Another one said, I found myself nodding along so much to the idea that homeschooling really is the ultimate accommodation, especially for neurodivergent learners who just don't fit in those cookie cutter systems. And we have pages at this point of comments and feedback like that. And so it's been really fun waking up to those every day from our advanced readers. So pretty awesome sauce.
Yeah. So bottom line, we could sit here and tell you how awesome our book is because we think it's awesome, but other people are actually saying so too, which is, it's fun.
No, people that I fangirl over are pre-reading our book. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
It is. The whole thing is just, awesome, but bizarre, right? I was updating the stats and we're consistently getting thousands of listeners a week. And it's awesome. It's great. Everyone listening has helped create this awesome community and just this supportive, wonderful community. But it's crazy. Like back in the early days when it was like, we'll just get to 50 listeners a week. It'll be amazing. Maybe we'll make it up to 100. How cool would that be?
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, back to but my kiddo will never be star of the month with the certificate and school assembly and yard sign melancholy. Okay. Look, I'm not going to lie. You're right. That probably won't be happening for your kiddo. But you know what else won't be happening for your kiddo? Lunch times that are so short, most kids can't actually finish their meal.
Oh, let me tell you, my kids would come home with a lunchbox full of food still. And I'd be like, why didn't you eat? And the thing that they were going to go eat first, they needed help opening. And so the process was you were not allowed to get up and go ask for help. So the process was you had to raise your hand and wait for someone to come and help you. And there were hundreds of kids in the cafeteria. And like 2 helpers. So it would take a while for somebody to come. And they're little and their frontal lobes aren't fully developed and their executive function skills kind of suck, even if your kid's amazing. And so nothing in their little heads were like, well, I'll eat something else while I wait for somebody to open this thing for me. And so they would just wait for someone to open that thing and then not eat. And they'd come home starving. And I'm like, this is such a system. Okay, great. Yeah.
That's so sad.
It was awful.
Yeah, we never experienced that, but that's really sad. Okay. Other things your kids aren't going to experience. Kids sitting at tables or desks for literally hours and hours, 5 days a week. minimal free play, downtime, or even just time to be creative. So many schools have cut art and music and things like that. And so it's like woven in with like 5 or 10 minutes for this creative project that goes along with your science or with your whatever. That's not enough.
Mhm.
How about 20 minutes of recess? If that. Usually it's 20 minutes of recess, but then they have to get up and walk to the playground and then play for 10 minutes and then get in line and all be in line before they walk back to the classroom, all in their 20-minute window. And listen, way too often that recess gets taken away for not being mellow enough during the day. And honestly, don't even get me started on how backwards that is to take away recess from a kid who clearly needs it for the break and the reset so they can power through the rest of the day. Talk about bad decisions by grown-ups in that situation, but that's a whole other soapbox. Then after they survive all of that, they get to go home and do more schoolwork. Could you imagine if literally every single day you left work and were expected to go home and do a couple of hours of more work? Not sometimes, not because you've got a big project or there's a big deadline coming up, but literally every single day, the expectation is like, well, you're done with your day. You've clocked out. Now go home and do a few more hours for free for the company. People would revolt.
Yeah. That's it. There's so much packed into these kids' days. It's just awful. And it kind of stems from and simultaneously feeds this myth that more is better. So school equals more friends, more opportunities, more fun, or that more structure somehow equals better outcomes. And as someone who doesn't like to do more than one, I will stretch to a maximum of two things per day. I need very little convincing that more doesn't automatically mean better. I fell into this trap early on when I was homeschooling because I felt like I needed to seize every opportunity to give my kids a well rounded experience and a fuller social circle and all of that. Before the pandemic, we were all burnt out. And ironically, before the pandemic shut everything down, we had come to the conclusion amongst ourselves that we were cutting way back. The kids were like, we're tired of scarfing down meals in the car between activity A and B. We're tired of needing to pack a bag and then change in the car on the way to activity C later in the day. When we scaled way back and had a chance to breathe, we were all so much more relaxed. We were at our best when we had less to do, and we could enjoy the things that we did with intention so much more than when we just crammed a whole bunch of stuff in. So I think it's so important to keep all that in mind. And then also just remember, access doesn't equal participation or enjoyment. Just because you're doing 5 things in a day doesn't mean that your kid is being included socially. It doesn't mean your kid is having fun. Busy doesn't mean fulfilled. Busy just means busy.
That's it. It is so important to remember that we aren't giving our kids less, but we are intentionally giving them something different.
Mhm.
We are giving them more free time for creativity, for projects, seeing where the boredom takes them. We did a whole episode on the importance of allowing kids time to be bored. So go give that a listen if you're like, where the boredom takes them. What are you talking about? We're giving them more time for sleep. Younger kids should still be getting 12 to 13 hours of sleep a day. But realistically, it is not easy to do homework, spend family time together, eat dinner, shower, or bathe the kids, and actually have them to sleep by like 6:30 at night so that you can wake them up at 7 a.m. to get ready for school. And
Mhm.
then puberty hits and the intense growth spurts mean kids need way more sleep than before, but you can't give them that sleep because no puberty kid is going to bed at like 6 or 7 at night so that they get the 13 hours their body is demanding during this new growth spurt. And then you survive that. And now you're in the teen years when their circadian rhythms are changing and those early mornings just aren't natural or even healthy for them.
Mm.
We're giving them more sleep that their body desperately needs. We're giving them more flexibility to learn at their own pace, the chance to explore interests, or even just the things that pique their curiosity. And if something is kind of like, oh, that's, they can dive into that, not like, okay, that's cool, but move along. We need to read another chapter. Flexibility to just adjust when something isn't working. And then we're also giving them so much more scaffolding around executive function skills and life skills. Literally, they're getting one-on-one tutoring and support for these skills that will be so important for the rest of their lives. Math might be an important part of their job and their career and whatever that looks like. And they might use that for many years, but they're not going to use it the same way they're going to use a lot of those life skills that they will use from now until the day they die.
Hmm. All true. Beyond that, we talked earlier about the very real threat to their physical safety, but can we also celebrate providing our kids with emotional safety? Hello. My kids have a former babysitter from when they were way, way younger who is a trans man. And I've seen him post that quote meme image thing that goes around where at the top it says, but it made you stronger. And in response, the person says, I was a child. I didn't need to get stronger. I needed to feel safe. And he's grown and married now. But at the time he babysat for us, it was during his later high school years. And I know for a fact what he's referring to. He had a hellacious time in high school, pre-transition. Our kids deserve to bloom in an environment where they have less daily stress, they have space to process big feelings, they have stronger parent-child connection, and they have space to be their authentic selves safely, which so often is not the case. I don't know what you remember about school, but individuality is not something that goes down well in the school environment. That's the thing that gets you picked on. That's the thing that makes you a target. That's the thing that makes you stand out. And our kids don't have to rub away their cool, unique edges and what makes them distinct to fit in and avoid being the target. They get to be that every day.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And I mean, we mentioned it earlier in the episode, but we also get to provide our kids with genuine socialization opportunities with kids who appreciate who they are and those unique bits. And yes, we've talked before about how this is more work, sometimes much more work than you dropping them off at the school down the block where they get added to a group of 100 kids all the same age and the deed is done and dusted. Or so society would have you believe. Socialization in homeschooling does take more intention. I'm in the tween years and I am still coordinating field trips and supervised activities and play dates. Or I suppose at this age now, I should probably say park hangouts. But look, I am a grown ass adult and I still talk about having play dates with my friends. So whatever, we're going on play dates. And while my kiddo isn't with 50 kids who live within a 2-mile radius of our front door, he has a lovely friend circle that includes mixed ages. He's 12 and his current friend group ranges from newly turned 9 to 14. Sure, that's not a huge spread for adults, but in kid years, that's a pretty big age range,
Yeah.
right? They are all intentional friendships, kids who truly like him for who he is, and he likes them for exactly who they are too. It's not like, well, you're the best of the lot. These are kids that have handpicked each other to like, you can be my person. You can be my person. Like, very intentional. And then let's not forget, his friends are less about forced proximity, that chosen connection. These are not kids that he sees in a specific location, but then never wants to meet up with outside of that time and place. Yes, he has those kinds of acquaintances, people who are friends at this class or at this game meetup. But his true friend group, these are friends that when we're traveling, he wants to chat with on FaceTime, or at the very least, he's picking up a souvenir for them or writing them a postcard. True friends that he has picked and wants to do stuff with outside of the school day.
I love that. That's so sweet. Yeah, I love it. But it's true, even as an adult. Do you have 50 close friends that you see daily? Of course not. I don't
Thank
even have
God,
50 close
no.
friends.
Can you?
Yeah,
I'd be exhausted trying to keep track.
please don't make me. But it's also not representative of real life. Adult friend groups are typically mixed in age and composed of people who make intentional choices to stay in one another's lives. Not, well, we're all here from 8 to 2, Monday through Friday, so I guess we're friends now. Another thing that's much more real life about homeschooling is that our kids can be out in the world and learning things beyond their textbooks as part of their organic developmental process. Things like travel, things like projects, life skills, community-based experiences, volunteer work, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they're not missing out. If you haven't gotten that vibe yet from this episode, they're good. They're so good.
That's it. Exactly. Do we expect that after listening to this, you'll never have another moment of FOMO or self doubt? Or you'll never wish that your kid could be recognized by your community for just how awesome and amazing they are? I mean, come on. Of course, those moments have a way of creeping in when we least expect them, or, sometimes hitting us like an 18 wheeler with no notice and just totally wiping us out. Even if you wholeheartedly chose to homeschool, it is completely natural to have moments where you question if the grass is greener on the other side. You will have moments of doubt. Your kids might be curious about school experiences. Some things will look fun, sometimes because of great cinematography, and sometimes because things in school and brick and mortar schools are fun. It just is what it is.
Yeah, there are those moments. They're interspersed in there. So
Yeah.
for my kids, they were very few and far between. For myself too, but there were glimmers. They were there. But what we would wager will happen is that over time, those intrusive thoughts will become quieter and creep into your brain less often. Because what will start happening is you will start seeing your kids thriving. You'll see homeschooling working. You'll remind yourself of all the things that we talked about in this episode enough that they finally start to sink in. And it's less about you convincing yourself that they're true and you actually embodying those things. I mean, hell, come back and listen to this episode anytime the intrusive thoughts begin. Come on back. Fall asleep to this episode at night like a meditation, whatever helps you. Okay. But realize that every path has trade offs. School has trade offs too. They're just super normalized and or hidden from public view because that's the default path in society.
Exactly. Look, if you are here because you made a very thoughtful, intentional decision that you knew in your heart, and maybe your pros and cons list was best for your kiddo, which, let's be real, it's probably all of us, because homeschooling is not easy and very few people just do it on a whim and stick with it for any period of time. Just remember, the grass is very rarely greener on the other side. If you're here listening to a podcast about how to ensure you're not depriving your kids or completely screwing this whole thing up, that makes us feel pretty confident that, one, you're not depriving your kids, and two, you're making intentional choices. And again, it is okay to question things. Hell, if you didn't, you'd be a Fox News junkie who took everything at face value. And if you've lasted an hour with us today, we know that's not you. But just try not to spiral, because different doesn't mean less. It's just intentionally different.
Yeah. And I will go out on a limb and say we've done traditional school and homeschool, and the grass is greener on this side. 100%. The grass on that side is like dead and filled with fire ants and spiky, thorny things. Okay.
Fire ants.
Yeah. I'm a Floridian in heart. Okay. We were somewhere one day and the kids saw like a little bit of dirt and they were like, fire ants. And I was like, no, that's not a thing here. They were so conditioned. The first time I ever let them swim in freshwater, they'd never been in freshwater until they were like double digits because they hadn't been in any place that was safe to do that. And they were putting their toes in and they were like, are you sure this is okay? I'm like, I swear this is okay. Because they had been hardcore brainwashed to never go in freshwater. Dr. Beach Gem does a whole thing about freshwater in Florida. She's got like a flow chart about why you cannot do that. And then it was hilarious. So I finally get them into the water, and my kids are water bugs. They grew up in the Atlantic, so they're not afraid of the water. And they were kind of wading around out there. And then one of them yells back and goes, are you allowed to put your face in this? And I'm like, yes, it's just like swimming anywhere else, right? Like they never knew. But yeah, the grass is greener. So anyway. Oh, goodness. So our end of episode mantra for you today is those highlight moments are very real, but so are the stress, pressure, and burnout moments that rarely make the photo. You owe it to yourself to factor in all of that.
Yeah.
Take a breath. You're doing a good job. It's all good. Your kids are going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's all going to be good.
Yep.
All right. That wraps us up for today. Enjoy the rest of your day and happy homeschooling.
Yeah. Have a great one.